Hello, everyone, and welcome to Soul Stained Ink. My name is Beth, and we have some things to discuss. So the books we're talking about today are Neurodiversity Studies, A New Critical Paradigm, one of my go-tos for everything right now. But we read some chapters in class today, and we paired it with A Kind of Spark, which is one of my absolute favorite books. This is by Elle McNichol. So I'm going to be talking about those as well as The Girl in the Walls by Meg Eden Hewitt. But let's start out with Neurodiversity Studies, A New Critical Paradigm. I'm looking at this not just because we read chapters in class today or for today, but because this is one of the critical neurodiversity studies books that has come out in the last several years that is edited and shows Hannah Roskvisk, Nick Chown, and Anna Stinning shows their beliefs for critical neurodiversity studies, but also just gives a good look at what neurodiversity is and what autism is. And basically, what you have is that neurodivergence happens because when the brain is forming, the pathways diverge from the norm, which means, of course, that there are people somewhere who think that there is this normal thing, which means it is changing via societal changes. But some of the key characteristics of being neurodivergent, specifically autistic, are that you have social differences, communication differences, repetitive behaviors or interests. I stim a lot. I had a student comment on it the other day, and another student who was sitting in the back stimming, doing their own thing, and they were like, "Hey, I do that too." Sensory sensitivity, so you either have high or low reactivity to like light, sound, touch, smell. Um, Signs are not always observable in early childhood, but sometimes you can see it really early. Sometimes you don't even start to see or realize what you're seeing, these neurodivergences, until the child is older. But you do need to know that it is not a disease. It is not something catching, and it is not because your mama took Tylenol when she was pregnant with you. That is not what happened. The reason that is important is because people who don't understand it and don't have it have no frame of reference for what an autistic person is dealing with can be absolutely cruel. One of the first books that I ever read that made me feel a connection to the character who was autistic is A Kind of Spark by Elle McNichol. Now, Elle herself is an autistic individual writing a book about an autistic individual. So there's a lot of authenticity in this book. But as you read through, there are other students, people who used to be our main character, Addie's friends, people who have been to school with her forever, and a teacher who actually had her older sister, who is also autistic, in class, that are all just cruel and don't seem to follow the rules of the school when it comes to her. So ignoring bullying and kind of smirking and allowing comments to happen in class that are said cruelly to Addie, while all Addie's trying to do is learn. And she becomes hyper focused on the witches who were killed in Scotland during the witch trials because she realizes that they were just women who were different, kind of like her. one of the reasons that I adore this book is because while Addie does learn, and while people around her do learn about her and about the witches, and she's able to get some things accomplished in this book, she makes friends, she stands up for herself. It's absolutely amazing and wonderful, but it does not end in a completely happy ending. The teacher, who is horrible, does not get her comeuppance. There's not any big change like that. It is a piece of life. But at the end of the book, you can see that Addie is learning and growing. People around her are learning and growing, and that she was able to accomplish something that she is very, very proud of. And that is why I love this book so much. And also a reason why this book reminded me of this book. So, The Girl in the Walls by Meg Eden Hewitt is one of two books by this author that I've read in the last couple of months. These are written in verse, so they are novels in verse. And they are also about a main character who is autistic, written by an author who is autistic. And these are set in the South, like in Louisiana, while this one is set in Scotland. But the feelings are there. So while people's reactions are not completely universal, because as I'm currently researching and arguing, the way we react to things and the way things are handled is regionally voiced, regionally affected. There's still some things that are very similar. So the way people react to the differences in social abilities or knowledge can be seen in all of the books. I don't have a copy of Good Different to hold up for you, but that is the other one. This is The Girl in the Walls. This one is following V, and she is an artist, and she had a very difficult time at school over the last year. Her best friend kind of stopped being her friend. She got a new art teacher, and he is just very different from her last art teacher, but she is an artist and she loves art, and that's how she speaks. She goes to visit her grandma, who is known as JoJo. She goes to stay with JoJo over the summer, and a lot of things happen, and there's a ghost in the walls, and the house starts falling apart. And we come to find out that maybe the reason that JoJo is so strict and mean, like downright cruel to V and to her cousin, who is slightly older and is also possibly autistic, the reason that she's so mean to them is because it is a form of survival, that JoJo is undiagnosed but has a lot of the same things that the girls have, and so did her mother. And perhaps this is all about survival and how you can live in the normal world without being taken away or having bad things happen to you. One of the things I love about both authors in both of the books I've read by this author is the way that they describe the feelings. Meg Eden Hewitt really enjoys using dragons. So she'll say, I feel like there's a dragon inside of me. Does nobody else feel the dragon inside of them? Things like that. And that is a great analogy to how you might feel as an autistic kid in junior high. I know it's how I felt, and I was undiagnosed at the time. So these books really show you what it's like to become hyperfixated on something, to feel everything clawing inside of you. And they can be very important to read, whether you are autistic yourself, whether you know someone who is autistic, or whether you just need to know what it's like to be in their shoes. So, whether it's A Kind of Spark or The Girl in the Walls or anything else by either of these authors, you are able to really get into the feeling of someone who is dealing with being autistic and might not know how to deal with people who are normal. You will also see how normative individuals might react. So, even if you don't see that in your own life, it can help you see how other people are dealing with things or reacting to things that are in their lives. It is important for those of us who are around, or who deal with individuals who might have this neurodiversity, and it can help us to be more empathetic and more understanding. Finally, I want to leave you with one of my favorite quotes from The Girl in the Walls by Meg Eden Kiet. This is on page 186. I don't want to think I mask, that there are times I wonder if I like who I am, what I would be like if I was neurotypical, that I listen to the voices and push down my exploding Venus into a normal person box. I don't want to think I care what people like M or JoJo or Mr. R think, but I do. And then I skip over to page 187. At the bottom it says, but sometimes I feel like a thorny dragon or a long-eared owl that I have to camouflage with neurotypicals to survive. Right? That's all. Thank you for watching. Have a great day and stay safe out there. Bye.